Assalamu alaikum once again. I've just prayed Maghrib and I just feel to do this video. This video probably I should have done it at first because my whole idea was to do this video first with the intention that I'm about to go into now. And in one of my introduction, pointed out this translation of the Quran. This is a color-coded tajweed rule. So it's got all the Arabic letters in color-coded tajweed rule. And it's a translation in Roman script with Arabic text and English translation. It was translated by Abdullah Yusuf Ali. Abdullah Yusuf Ali, he translated this Arabic into English. A lot of the scholars had opinions about his translation. Some, people have different opinion, but people always have different opinion. So this Quran, it's got a certification of authenticity. Can you get that, Safana? It's got certification of authenticity, and it's been certified by Maulana Muhammad Imran Qasim Baighavi, someone from India, from Darul Ulum Deoband. A lot of the world scholars are in difference with this part of the world scholars, but just something that so happens. But they have given authenticity for this English translation of the Quran. And I've said to you that I've read this English translation. I also read the Arabic as the Quran. I do that separately, and I also read translation of this. And I started in January, as I said, and it's probably my 4th or 5th time now that I'm reading this, and I'm actually in Surah Al-Ma'idah, but I want to talk to you about Surah Al-Fatiha. When I first read the Quran and I came back second time into Surah Al-Fatiha, I had a lot of eye-opening because what I have seen inside the Quran. And I'm not saying I've seen the whole stuff. Somebody might think, if you've seen the whole stuff. I've not seen the whole stuff. And there's a reason why people say you should try to understand what you read. So there's no harm done when you understand something and you express that. So, a lot of the time people say Surah Al-Fatiha, the whole Quran is inside. When I read it the second time, in Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, I saw all the attributes of Allah in the Quran, especially Surah Ar-Rahman. It's all about His attributes. And Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, how Allah, we know He talks about His mercies, everybody's aware of that. Maliki Yawmiddin. When this one I read, Lord of the Day of Judgment, Maliki Yawmiddin, I thought to myself, Subhanallah, here is the dawah of 124,000 Anbiya alayhi salam. Allah sent 124 Anbiya alayhi salam in this world for what? Maliki Yawmiddin. They were talking about the last day. They were talking about the Yawmul Qiyamah. They were talking about how we're going to stand in front of Allah, how everybody's going to be resurrected. This is about the day of resurrection. This is the last day. So that's what I noticed about this Maliki Yawmiddin, the da'wat of 124,000 Anbiya alayhi salam. And as you know, Iyyaka na'budu wa Iyyaka nasta'in, you do we worship and your aid do we seek, and then we ask Him to show us the straight path. Now, after that, when it came to Siratul Ladhina An'amta alayhim, in the past I used to think that, yes, Allah's saying, like, those on whom He has bestowed His grace, on those on whom He has bestowed His grace. غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ. Amen. And now, people used to say, something different here. I don't want to go into that, but they used to say something that is different to what I'm reading here, but I never understood it until I read the whole Quran once. So when Allah is saying, now those on whom He has bestowed His grace, then He's saying, those whose portion is not rough. So He's saying, those who He's bestowed His grace upon, pointing to the same person that his portion didn't go rough. Okay, rough means the anger of Allah, and who do not go astray. And the same very person, he didn't go astray. He kept on Sirat al-Mustaqim from beginning till the end. One particular person. That's what I'm feeling Allah is saying here. A lot of the time people go and they point at fingers here and they point at there. He means them and he means them. He's not meaning nobody at the moment. He's only meaning a specific people who He bestowed His grace upon, who they didn't incur the curse of Allah, the wrath of Allah, and they did not go astray. Now, I never looked the word astray up before, so I used to think it's like ashes burnt up and gone. That's what I thought. That's what I think meant. Right? I looked into the dictionary and I looked at the word astray, and it kind of means, well, it means people who don't slip from the straight path. They don't slip. That's what it means. Not in hell, not burnt up already. It's not, that's what it meant. Ashtray, like you have a fag, cigarette, there's the ashtray. Okay? Those who gone astray. Ashtray, you will know better than me. I have to look it up, and when I looked it up, it surprised me because I thought to myself, all that time I was thinking wrong. Okay, so astray means who don't slip from the straight path. Now, if we go to Surah Al-Kahf, here it is. You know, there's an incident in Surah Al-Kahf about two people. Now, these two people, Allah is talking about, he's giving a parable here about two persons. The verse number 32. So, verse number 32 in Surah Al-Kahf. I won't read the Arabic, so I hope some doesn't come along and say I'm doing something awfully wrong. I'm not reading the Arabic, I'm just going to read the English to you. And the English is verse 32. I'm going to start from verse 32, okay? This is about those whose portion got rough and those who strayed away from the straight path. When I read this surah, I had to meditate on it a little while because there was something there. And then this is what I found. Now, verse number 32. Set forth to them the parable of two people. Set forth to them the parable of two people. For one of them we provided two gardens with grapevines and surrounded them with date palms. In between the two we placed a cornfield. In between the two we placed a cornfield. Each of those gardens brought forth its produce, and did not find in the least therein. Did not fail in the least therein. In the midst of them we caused a river to flow. Subhanallah. What Allah gave this man. In the middle of all of that cornfield, grapevine, date palm, He put a river. He caused a river to flow. Now we go into verse 34. Abandoned was the produce this man had. So he had this abundance of the ni'mat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said to his companion in the course of a mutual argument, more wealth have I than you, and more honor and power in my flowing of men. Wow. He said, more wealth I have than you, and more honor and power in my following of men. He went into his garden, verse 35 now. He went into his garden in a state of mind unjust to his soul. He said, I deem not that this will ever perish. What did he say? He said, I deem not this will ever perish. Verse 36, it goes on further. Nor do I deem that the hour of the judgment will ever come. Maliki Yawmiddin. He's doubting this now. He's saying, nor do I deem that the hour of judgment will ever come, even if I am brought back to my Lord. So here's someone that believes he will be brought back to his Lord. Even if I'm brought back to my Lord, I shall surely find there something better in exchange. So he's thinking that even if he's brought back to Allah, he will find something better with Allah in exchange of all of this. This is what he's thinking. Verse 37 now. His companion said to him, in the course of the argument with him. So his companion is now, in the course of argument, is saying back to him, and he put a question to him, and he said, do you deny him who created you out of dust, then out of a sperm drop, and fashioned you into a man? Now, I want to go just somewhere else here. Scientists, we know they discovered with their cameras and everything how it's all made in the embryo. And we keep saying that it was already in the Quran. We knew it 1400 years ago. But this two-person, their incident is way before 1400 years ago. And yet he had this knowledge about that we were created from dust and then out of sperm dropped. Okay, he already had that knowledge. So I'm just going to read that verse again, because this is now his friend now talking to the one that is denying the judgment day, who had all the wealth and everything. So now his friend comes in and he says, do you deny him who created you out of dust, then out of sperm drop, then fashioned you into a man? Okay? And he's saying, verse 38 he's saying, but I think for my part that he is Allah. So this guy is a believer. This guy believes in Allah, and so does the other one. And they were both Muslims. That a lot of people don't catch. But I think on my part he is Allah, my Lord, and none shall I associate with my Lord. So whatever this guy has said, this other guy is saying, I will not associate anything with my Lord. Verse number 39, and he's continuing, why do you not, no, sorry, I said that wrong. He said, why did you not, as you went into your garden, say, Allah's will be done. There is no power but with Allah. If you see me less than you in wealth and son, now he's saying to this guy, who Allah has given sons and abundance of wealth, he's saying, if you see me less than you in wealth and son, verse 40 now is saying, it may be that my Lord will give me something better than your garden, and that he will send on your garden thunderbolts by way of reckoning from heaven, making it but slippery sand. So this is what's happened now after this guy has said this. And verse 41, he's still continuing actually. He's saying, all the water of the garden will run off underground so that you will never be able to find it. And verse 42, now so his fruit, now Allah is referring to what's happened, he's saying, so his fruit and enjoyment were encompassed with ruin, and he remained twisting and turning his hand over what he had spent on his property. He spent what he spent on his property, it's all gone now, which he had now tumbled into pieces to its very foundation. He could only say, "Oh, is me, would I had never ascribed partners to my Lord and the Cherisher, nor had the numbers to help him against Allah, nor was he able to deliver himself." So these two guys that having a conversation way back somewhere, only Allah knows their time there. When you read this verse, you know that these two guys, they were actually Muslim. They had Tawheed, they believed in Allah. There were some messengers in their time. So what's happened now? You see, this guy is astray. I'm not sure if he has caught the wrath of Allah, but he's definitely astray from the straight path. And he was amongst the Muslims. So that's what Allah's telling us, right? He's telling us what it feels to me like here in this Surah Fatiha, the way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace. I'm coming back to Surah Fatiha, غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِّينَ آمِنَ. The way of those on whom you have bestowed your grace, those whose portion is not wrath and who do not go astray. So if we take, for example, we got Khidr alayhi salam. Khidr alayhi salam, people don't know whether he's a prophet or whether he's just a normal person. We have Luqman alayhi salam. We don't know whether he's a prophet or whether he's something else. Imran, some people say Imran alayhi salam is a prophet as well. So that's one incident about people who Allah bestowed His grace upon, whose portion was not wrath and who didn't go astray. The Sahabas, we can find the same. Hazrat Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, no wrath of Allah came to him. He didn't slip from the straight path, and a lot of the Sahabas as well. So when we are making this dua and we're trying to say different sects of people, those ones and they've gone, I think we should concentrate rather on the people who He's bestowed His grace upon and stay with those people by thinking that their portion is not wrath and they do not go astray. And somewhere further in the Quran, there's another story about a group of people who had a garden, a beautiful garden, and they kind of left there and they were going to come back the next morning to take everything. And they didn't say inshallah, and they didn't come and find everything in the same way. I kind of forgot where exactly this story sits here, but it does sit, and in the future I am going to talk about that. So that's one thing about Surah Fatiha, that we are making dua to Allah, that we're asking Him because we're asking Him for the straight path, and the path that is those who He bestowed His grace upon. Now, after some people get gifted from Allah, like this person in Surah Kaf, Allah gave him, what did He give him? Grapevine, date palms, cornfield, and a river in between. Now, it was the grace of Allah or bounty of Allah. Whatever he had, it never maintained, because after that he got ruined. Okay, it didn't stay with him. While on the other one, further in the Quran, Allah does talk about what He's giving this man, and Allah says He's giving him amal as-salihah, which is the best of all things. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also bestow His grace upon us, and those whose portion don't go wrath and those who do not go astray. And alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Stopped it?